Jackson here, and today I want to talk about a particular free-to-play game that I've really enjoyed, Fallout Shelter. It's kind of a good mix of strategy and combat and base building, management, all sorts of fun stuff that I like to play in a free-to-play game. It is available, I think, now on PS4 as well as phones. So today I wanted to kind of talk about the first three floors and how to set that up so you can establish your vault in a way that you can get to a mega vault. The reason why this is important is that even though the game does have a lot of tutorials, as you see here, it doesn't really explain some of the hidden complexities. Like it tells you how to build a room and, the ideas of where to build it, but it doesn't really tell you why you should build a room and where. So, kind of the first thing that stinks about this, unfortunately, is that it starts you out with a living quarters already built on the first floor. And I'm going to go into why that's not very good. But it also doesn't really tell you that, hey, you should build your buildings in a way that you can allow them to expand easily. Each room can be expanded 3 times, so you can combine a small room, you can combine it 2 extra times to get a total of 3 rooms all next to each other. So I put a power plant first on the second floor, so I can give myself some room, because eventually we are going to be deleting that first room that they gave you, which is a living quarters. Now, you get a couple of settlers right away, or vault dwellers, which is nice because, you have to fill the rooms that you get. And they're going to be giving you a lot of settlers. Most of the time the stats are random, but the first guy we get over here, he has strength +5, and the other one has, strength +2. I mean, in addition to their other stats. So we're just going to go ahead and put them right away into the power plant. They're on the second floor. And again, the hints are good, but and it kind of goes into the first fact here that you can rush a building. And I'll go into more of the details on rushing later, but for now it just gives you the basics on how to do a building rush. Now that gives you extra caps, which you can see in the upper right hand corner, which is the money and the currency that you use in this game, and that's needed for everything. That's needed for being able to build extra buildings, most importantly. And the reason why you have to build your first 3 floors properly is because if you don't, you're going to end up realizing this later on, and you're going to have to delete a bunch of buildings, which the refunded amount of caps you get for building a building is terrible. So it's important that you set this up the right way. So now, the way your elevators are set up now is you get 3 expansion slots on the left and then 5 on the right. So you always want to leave 3 slots open for each building. So I built a diner on the second floor and then a water treatment plant on the third floor. So again, to allow expansion slots. So the next set of dwellers you get, again, kind of look at their stats, see where they fit. I mean, when you hover them over a building, it tells you how many stats for that room they have. So try to put a dweller into a room with at least 2. Now, you won't always be able to do that, but again, usually at the beginning here, they give you dwellers that can fit nicely into a room with at least 2 stats. Sometimes you get lucky with 4 or 5, but I'm just trying to organize these first set of dwellers right now. Like you see, this guy has agility 5, so I'm putting him in the diner. Like the other guy had strength 5, and this one has perception 5. Oh, how nice. So we can get 1 dweller with at least 5 stat points in each of the buildings. Now, what that does is the stat amount, right, the perception 5, strength 5, agility 5, that allows us to produce the resources faster. All of your resources are on a timer, so if you click on the diner, it tells you how much time it's going to take in order to gather that resource. And then if you've played other free-to-play games, you kind of understand that speed at which you can gather the resources. So the higher the stat, the quicker you can gather that resource. So I tried to organize it as best I could so that the highest stat person is in the appropriate room. Now I still have this issue where I have to delete a living quarters, but you can't delete the living quarters and not have any. You have to have at least one. So I'm going to organize that here in a second. Let's see, what do I do here? Okay, I should be building living quarters. Yes, I do. So I build the living quarters on the 3rd floor, right? No? Right? Well, I'm going to get there. Anyway, I know I'm going to build one eventually on there. So here we go. We got another guy in here. I think I'm going to put him into the vault door, and I'll kind of explain that later. And I'll tell you the reason why we don't want to have living quarters on the 1st floor, and that's because later on in the game, when you get attacked, the creatures that come in, they always attack the whole 1st floor, then they from left to right, then they go down the elevator, and they go left to right again on the 2nd floor, so on and so forth. So usually you're not going to have 6 people in your living quarters, and even if you do, their highest stat is charisma. So strength is what determines how hard you get hit by enemy attacks. So I like to have the power plant on the 1st floor so that when ghouls or raiders or even like a Deathclaws attack, my highest armored guys, an armor, I say armored because, strength reduces how hard you get hit. So I like to have my 1st room that gets attacked outside of the vault door to be strength. So those guys don't take a lot of damage because you're just going to have to use those impacts. We'll get into that later. So I built the living quarters finally on the 3rd floor, which that allows me to be able to delete the living quarters at the top. And be able to replace that with a power plant. Now, I have a power plant on the 2nd floor too, but you are going to need more power for the living quarters, for the rest of your buildings. Power is probably the most important resource, because once you run out of power, the other buildings actually shut down, which then you can't, produce any resources. You can't, your vault kind of starts to fall apart. So I've cleared all of the guys out of that 1st floor structure there, so the living quarters is empty. And I believe I actually did put a male and female dweller down there, so they might start getting busy making the babies. But their charisma is really low, as you can see. So if their charisma stat, just like the other ones, they're all on a timer. If the charisma stat is really low on the 2 dwellers, well, they're not going to be, they're not going to know how to flirt with each other too well, and it's going to take them a long time to finally make their way into the back there, into the bedroom, and get busy. So, but as you see here, we got another dweller. So, most of these guys, like I said, the first couple, they'll give you like a +5, but most of these guys, their stats are going to be pretty low, 1 to 2, just to kind of get going. Now, as you see, those 2 people in the living quarters, they're starting to talk, but trust me, their stats are really low, so they're not going to be getting too busy too fast. Now, I am going to make this kind of a multiple-part series. I'm not going to make each video too long, so each video probably going to be around 10 minutes long, and probably have 3 to 4 parts. But again, by the end of this series, you guys are going to be able to have a vault, the first 3 floors of your vault set up so that you'll have basically a well-oiled machine. Your vault will be producing power, water, and food so that you'll be able to, comfortably just have those basics set up, and then we'll be able to do more advanced things like sending guys out to the wasteland, doing quests, and basically just generating more caps. The more caps you have, that's the way you're going to be able to make more money and be able to just keep expanding. So one day, we can get into a mega vault. That's the whole idea, right? You want to have, 10 to 15 floors, making, all sorts of fancy weapons, statmen, all this and that, and they cost tons and tons of caps. So it's really important that we set up these first few floors right. because this is a free-to-play game, you know, but if you don't build these buildings correctly the first time around, of course, you know, Bethesda would love for you to kind of mess up a little bit and say, well, I don't want to start over again. I just invested all this time, so maybe I'll pay some money. Well, I never had to do that. So anyways, guys, that was the first part here. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to get into, again, more of the details on expanding that vault, so see you in the next episode.